Hey folks, it's Jacob from the Koei Collection channel, and in today's video, we're going to be ranking all 28 characters from Dynasty Warriors 2. This game was released in the year of our Lord, 2000, and was one of the launch titles that accompanied the release of the PlayStation 2. Dynasty Warriors 2 had completely changed its formula from its arcade-styled predecessor, and had led this series in the direction we're all familiar with today. Bit of a shameless plug, but if you'd like to learn more about Dynasty Warriors 2, I'll leave a link to our game review in the description below. Now, before we dive into this tier list, I just wanted to throw in a quick little disclaimer. Even though Dynasty Warriors 2 had increased its roster size by 12, for the sake of this video, I'll only be ranking these characters between the E and S tiers, considering there's only 28 characters all up. And on top of that, it's important to note that Dynasty Warriors 2 has very little story on offer, as well as fairly restricted and minimal character movesets, as everyone is limited to a string of 4 basic attacks and 4 charge attacks. That is to say, without much to work with in the story and combat department, I'll mainly be considering each character in this tier list based on their designs and the overall enjoyment factor I had while playing as them throughout the game. But anyway, with all of that setup out of the way, let's get started with today's Dynasty Warriors tier list. Starting out in alphabetical order, we have the hero of chaos himself, Cao Cao. And in Dynasty Warriors 2, I think I'm going to move him right into the A tier. Out of each of the 3 kingdom leaders, I'm pretty sure he's the only one with a unique moveset in this game. And it just so happens to be that his limited moveset in Dynasty Warriors 2 is one of the more satisfying ones to play as. Not sure if it's from his portrayal in the cutscenes or just how he plays in general, but it feels like he's much more of a hands-on and ferocious type of leader in this game. Either way, I definitely enjoyed my time playing as Cao Cao in Dynasty Warriors 2 overall. Next on the list, we have the loyal protector, Dian Wei, and while I didn't quite love my time spent with him in this game, he still has a very solid moveset, and I feel like he's an above-average fighter. So with that being said, I think he fits perfectly in the B tier for this game. One thing I'll mention now that'll apply to a lot of other characters on this list is that it was super fascinating to see just how much of the character moveset foundations were present so early here in Dynasty Warriors 2. And while future games improved upon these movesets with extended charge attacks and basic attacks, it was kind of a trip down memory lane getting to experience the origins for a lot of these iconic movesets, and that is especially true for Dian Wei's deadly axe-swinging attacks. Moving on to our next character, which is Dio-chan, and I'll be honest, she is probably one of the more hit-and-miss characters of the series for me, as her movesets tend to change a fair bit from title to title. As for the earlier games, I'm not the biggest fan of her dual mace moveset, and that's also the case in Dynasty Warriors 2. To be fair, her design in this game is a tremendous improvement from her debut entry, and is probably one of the best designs from this game. And despite not loving her moveset, I did enjoy how unique she felt to play when compared to every other character overall. So I think based on that, I'll be slotting her into the B tier for Dynasty Warriors 2. Alrighty, next on our list, we have the tyrannical Dong Zhuo. Outside of being a villain on one stage, he's barely in this game at all. In the end, I'm going to move him into the C tier, but there's also something in general that I want to say about his overall moveset. And that is the fact that there's like 7 characters which share the exact same sword moveset in Dynasty Warriors 2, which is 25% of this game's roster. And that's not the only instance of clone characters in this game either. Unfortunately, Dong Zhuo is one of these characters, so for simplicity's sake, any future characters on this list that share this moveset, I'll just be referring to it as the sword moveset. It's easily my favorite Musou attack to unleash, as it is easy to control and concentrate on an enemy officer. But other than that, it's a fairly basic moveset with limited range. To shift our focus back to the actual character himself, other than his moves, I think Dong Zhuo is designed well enough for his debut appearance, but overall I think he fits perfectly in the C tier. Also joining him in the C tier, and this kinda pains me to say this, is our favorite pirate man, Gan Ning. He shares a cutlass weapon with Huang Zhang and Zhao Ho Yuan, and that moveset happens to be one of my lesser favorite fighting styles in this game. But one thing that Dynasty Warriors 2 does get right with him is his character design, and I'm glad that a more updated version of this design is included in the future installment of Dynasty Warriors 4. Outside of that, there's really not too much more to say about Gan Ning in this game. He didn't leave as much of an impression on me when compared to future installments. And a big factor of that is the absence of personality, which is a massive quality of his. Okay, so for our first E tier character, I'm going to be slotting in the God of War himself, Guan Yu. It hurts to rank him so low, but I just did not enjoy playing as Guan Yu in Dynasty Warriors 2. And usually I'd rank him much higher in the series, but in this game, he was just a lot slower in my opinion. Not only that, but I also feel like he has the worst Musou attack out of any character in this game. As soon as you activate it, the first hit you land on an enemy sends them flying out of your reach, almost rendering the attack completely useless. Sure, he does automatically spawn in on the red hair mount in this game, but I feel like the horse system is a bit of an afterthought as it is anyway, seeing as your horse will likely disappear for good if you walk too far away from them. But yeah, overall, unfortunately Guan Yu is just an E-tiered character for me in Dynasty Warriors 2. Anyway, next on our list we have Huang Zhang, and in all honesty, everything I've said about Gan Ning, I could pretty much say about Huang Zhang as well. Therefore, I'm also going to move him into the C tier, as I feel like that's the most appropriate place for him overall. I think his earlier depictions in the Dynasty Warriors series look so badass, and this game is no exception. It would have been amazing if some bow attacks were incorporated into his charge attacks in this game, but thankfully we didn't have to wait too long in this series for that to be implemented. Also joining Huang Zhang in the C tier, I'm going to be slotting in Zhang Wei here. To be completely honest, I almost forgot that this guy was introduced so early in the series, but it's nice to see him here all the same. I feel like there's not an awful lot I have to say about Zhang Wei in Dynasty Warriors 2, outside of the fact that he shares his spear moveset with Ma Chao. And all up, I feel like Zhang Wei is expanded upon really well in future games, but as far as Dynasty Warriors 2 goes, he's perfectly middle of the road, and therefore, I feel like he belongs in the C tier. Next on our list is yet another character in the C tier, and that character is the ruler of Shu, Liu Bei. He's one of the 7 characters to share the sword moveset, and to be fair, it suits him well. He makes an appearance in his fair share of cutscenes in this game, and his design was very solid from the get-go in Dynasty Warriors 2. But yeah, overall there's nothing about his appearance in this game that stands out to me when compared to a few of the other characters on this list, so for that, I think the C tier is where Liu Bei belongs. For our next character, we finally have someone who belongs in the S tier, and that character is none other than Lu Bu. Now, to be fully transparent for a moment here, I don't really believe any of the characters in this game are truly S-tier characters, especially when compared to their later series iterations. But when it comes to comparing Lu Bu to the other characters in this game, he is easily a cut above the rest, which is why he belongs in the S tier for me. While I don't know if I'd consider him to have the best moveset in Dynasty Warriors 2, what I'd say Lu Bu does have is incredible strength and amazing attack range, which really goes a long way, especially considering how grueling and difficult this game can be. Next up on our list, we have the debut appearance for the General of Wu, Lu Meng. I'm not certain on this one, but I'm pretty sure he shares a moveset with Zhang Liao, but for some reason it feels slightly slower somehow. Either way, I enjoyed my time playing as Lu Meng, and feel like Koei did a great job with his design so early on in the series. Overall, I think Lu Meng is probably best fit for the B tier, as he definitely stood out to me as being above average in this game. Moving on to our next fighter, we have the young strategist, Lu Xun, and he is easily an S tier character for me in this game. In my opinion, the S tier characters should be the ones I enjoyed playing as the most, and Lu Xun is no exception. I think the combination of his fast attack speed, paired with his twin sword moveset, really made for one of the most enjoyable experiences in Dynasty Warriors 2. And, in a way, I found myself learning something about these characters during my time with Lu Xun specifically. There's a lot of characters in Dynasty Warriors 2 that seem to keep a lot of their movesets in later games like 4 and 5, but in those games I don't exactly enjoy their playstyle anywhere near as much as I am in this game. So I'm thinking that in the absence of brand new characters and their movesets like those of Guan Ping and Zhou Tai's, these characters feel a lot more powerful and elevated in earlier games like Dynasty Warriors 2. And honestly, I'm really curious to see if this opinion or feeling will slowly change when I get around to the next game in the series. But anyway, moving on to our next character on the list, and that character is Ma Chao. I'm going to slot him right into the B tier, and the reason why he isn't going next to Zhang Wei is purely because I really like his character design from this game, and it's probably one of my favorites from this title. I really don't have too much more to add, especially regarding his moveset, but yeah, I feel like he best belongs in the B tier. Next up, we have Sima Yi, and once again, he shares one of the cloned sword movesets. In all honesty, it was a tough toss-up whether to put him into the B or C tier, as I really love this early design for his character, and I think it works as a solid foundation for his later depictions. But overall, I think he's best suited for the C tier, along with the majority of the other characters that share his moveset. There's nothing wrong with this depiction of Sima Yi by any means, but I just think that there isn't enough here to make him stand out above anyone else in particular. Okay, so for our next two characters, once again we have the shared sword moveset. However, this time I'm slotting each of them into different tiers, and that's purely based on my enjoyment factor and character designs. The first one is Sun Jian, and I think he's a perfect fit for the B tier. I just loved playing as him in Dynasty Warriors 2, and I think it's because he's got a great military general design to go with his sword moveset, along with him just being one of the coolest characters in the series overall. But I totally admit that I'm being super biased here. As for the second character, we're looking at Sun Quan, and I genuinely dislike his designs from the earlier Dynasty Warriors titles, and this game is no exception. I don't know why, but this whole scholar and strategist aesthetic of his in the early games just never made sense to me, as I always felt like his later appearances in games like 5 and 6 looked way more on brand for Sun Quan. But yeah, didn't really enjoy his depiction in Dynasty Warriors 2, and for that, I think he's going straight into the D tier. As for our last member of the Sun family in this game, we've got the ferocious Sun Shangshang. Usually I'm not a fan of her moveset, but I thoroughly enjoyed slashing through waves of enemies in this game with her twin chakrams. And overall, I just felt like her attacks and Muso were absolute standouts, considering how unique they were when compared to everyone else in Dynasty Warriors 2. So yeah, it's no question in my mind, she's going right into the S tier for this game. For our next warrior, we have the intimidating Taishi Si. Honestly, he's a bit of a weird one for me because I really don't have much to say about him at all for this game. While I don't love his design, I had so much fun with him in this title, and again, it was nice to see that a majority of his moves in later titles are actually present here. I think purely based on how unique he is to play in this game, especially considering that Koei could have easily cloned him with Lu Xun or something, and the fact that he hits like a truck, I personally think Taishi Si belongs in the A tier. Moving in right next to Taishi Si in the A tier, I'm gonna slot in our favorite one-eyed warrior, Xiahou Dun. I feel like this one speaks for itself. His unique moveset from this game is iconic and really effective, and he just feels like a cut above the rest as soon as you pick up the controller. There's a reason why he's a fan favorite, and I feel like he had that gruff and badass aura he's well known for, all the way back in Dynasty Warriors 2. Next up, we've got Xiahou Yuan, and I'm just gonna move him straight into the D tier next to Sun Quan, and in all honesty, it's pretty much for the same reasons too. I'm just not really a fan of his design in this game at all, and ultimately he's one of the few characters from this entry which felt a little undercooked and left out of the spotlight, so yeah, not much more to say on this one. He's been done a lot better in later titles. Up next, we have probably one of my least favorite characters from the Dynasty Warriors series, and that is Zhu Ju. Honestly, he's nowhere near as annoying here as he is in later series entries, but still, I just really didn't enjoy my time playing as him in this game, and ultimately think he's best suited for the E tier next to Guan Yu. Next on the list is Yuan Shao, and I'll be honest, I actually think his earlier designs from games like Dynasty Warriors 2 and 3 are super solid, and give him a strong and commanding aesthetic, while also being colored in gold to highlight his lavishness. While he does share that sword moveset with many others in this game, I just really enjoyed playing as Yuan Shao in Dynasty Warriors 2. So for that, I'm going to move him right into the B tier. Closing in on our last few warriors now, next up we have Zhang Fei. He's a tough warrior with attitude and really benefits as a character once he's given that loud and boisterous personality in later titles. But in this game, with the absence of any voice acting, he kinda just feels like a tougher yet slower character. He's an absolute menace to face on the Changban stage, that's for sure. But as for playing as him, I feel like he's more of a middle-of-the-road character in Dynasty Warriors 2, and belongs in the C tier. Joining Zhang Fei in the C tier is our last character from this game that shares that sword moveset I keep talking about, and that character is Zhang Zhao. Honestly, I really don't have as much to say about him and his depiction in this series entry, and more or less share the same opinions on him as I do with Dong Zhuo. His purpose in the game is to be the villain in one stage, and for that, he does his job well. And while his design in this game is solid, it's definitely nothing outstanding or overly memorable compared to other characters. Next on our list, we have the mighty Zhang Liao, and he's straight up going into the A tier for me. Just an overall solid character in this game, and I really enjoyed his design and moveset when compared to others. Like I said while mentioning Lu Meng, I think Zhang Liao's attack speed is slightly faster for some reason, but yeah, I just think his implementation in Dynasty Warriors 2 was superb. Our next character is the poster boy of the series, Zhao Yun. I might cop a bit of flack for this, but I think he's the epitome of a perfectly balanced Dynasty Warriors character, especially in the earlier titles. And for that, I feel like he's a really solid character to play as, but not particularly amazing or memorable when compared to other fighters, so for that reason, I'm going to move him right into the B tier. He definitely gets his time to shine in later games, but for this game, I think that's where he best belongs. Alrighty, down to our final two characters, and that's both Zhou Yu and Zhuge Liang. And I'll just say it now, they're both definitely A-tier characters in my mind, and both for fairly similar reasons too. They're both very notable characters in this game from the Battle of Chibi and the Wuzhang Plains, but on top of this, they both have incredibly unique movesets compared to the other characters in this game. And I'd argue that their movesets are possibly some of the most advanced in Dynasty Warriors 2. Not in a difficulty sense, but more so with keeping their future character iterations in mind. Zhuge Liang has this stagnant Muso attack which does some really great area of effect damage, and Zhou Yu has some technically impressive aerial slashes which become a long-term staple for his character's movesets. Both characters were so close to being S-tier characters for sure, but ultimately I found myself enjoying those who actually made it into the S-tier ever so slightly more. But yeah, that's basically it for my tier list ranking for the characters of Dynasty Warriors 2. Whether you've played Dynasty Warriors 2 or not, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this ranking list, and whether you agree or disagree with any of my picks. As always, if you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much for sticking around, as it really helps out our channel. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. And lastly, I want to give a massive thank you and shout out to the brave warriors of Craig's Army for supporting the Koei Collection channel. If you're interested in becoming a channel member and gaining access to exclusive members-only videos, and our members-only Discord, I'll leave a link below in the description.